Just about everyone has heard of KitKat and likely eaten them too. And if you are in the US, there is really just one main flavor, milk chocolate, and it's pretty delicious. I guess it's worth mentioning the US also has white cream, dark chocolate, strawberry, and red velvet flavors now, but those are more recent additions to the lineup. So we could say the number of KitKat flavors in the US are in the single digits, which is pretty sad because the rest of the world has tons more flavors, and you will see at the end of this video how many that really is. So why in the name of all that is holy doesn't the US get all these cool flavors that places like Japan, the UK, Canada, Australia, and everyone else do? The answer might surprise you. It certainly did me. Nestle, the parent company of the global KitKat brand, is a Swiss-based company started in 1867 that makes all sorts of products including coffee and tea, baby food, cereal, dairy products, pet foods, and a bunch of other stuff, and has yearly sales of over $1 billion US. But Nestle does not produce KitKats in the US. You heard that right. It's the Hershey Company of Pennsylvania, the same company that makes Reese's and Hershey's Kisses and of course Hershey bars. But how did this happen, and why are Americans deprived of more flavors on their determined path to attain early diabetes? To answer that, let's take a quick look at the history of KitKat. KitKat was started way back in 1935 by Rowntree's in York, England, and was originally known as Rowntree's Chocolate Crisp, though in 1937 the name was changed to KitKat Chocolate Crisp. In the 1950s, KitKat was expanded to Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. And then in the 70s, an agreement was made with Hershey's to produce KitKat under license in the US, and around the same time a deal was also made to sell KitKat in Japan under Fujiya. More on that later because Japan is a big part of the KitKat story and why Americans should be up in arms over their paltry single-digit flavor selection. In 1988, Nestle acquired Rowntree, and then in 2000, Nestle bought out Fujiya's share in Japan. So by 2000, Nestle had nearly full control of KitKats produced worldwide, except in the US. So why couldn't Nestle secure the rights to KitKat in the US? Well, Hershey apparently had a very solid contract to produce KitKats that they wouldn't let go of, and I wouldn't either, quite frankly. So even today, America is really the only place where non-Nestle KitKats can be had. A quick side note, the KitKat name goes back to the late 1600s. A pastry chef named Christopher Catling owned a pie shop in London where a literary club would meet, and the group was called the KitKat Club, which was just a shortened version of the owner's name. Alright, back to the story. Now before we talk about KitKats in Japan, let's take a look at some notable flavors from other parts of the world. The UK has dark mint, orange, cookies and cream, mocha, ruby chocolate, chunky salted caramel fudge, chunky peanut butter. Australia has a couple like chocolate mint whirl and chunky caramel. In Germany you have things like the Senses line in hazelnut, double chocolate, and salted caramel. Canada brings to the table quite a few like snacks, that's with an X, that include caramel popcorn, roasted almonds, and pretzels in the mix. Sounds pretty good actually. Chunky white, chunky milk, chunky New York cheesecake, which is ironic because it's in Canada. White mint duo, caramel burst and sea salt, matcha green tea, tiramisu bar, cookie crumble, hazelnut crunch, caramel crisp, mint cream and cookie smash. And this one's really good, espresso biscuit and ganache. And I'm sure there are several I've missed, or maybe some that have been added since this video was made, but that's the bulk of the flavors across 4 pretty big market countries, which seems like a lot, right? Not really. Where things get next level is in Japan. So hold on to your trousers because Mr. Crazy Pants is about to enter the room and there is no telling what he'll do. The story of KitKat in Japan is actually quite fascinating and probably deserves a video of its own. Let me know if you'd like me to make one, I'll definitely consider it. KitKat in Japan has become a cult phenomenon with upwards of 300 flavors like blood orange, green tea, grilled corn, kiwi, rum raisin, butter, mango passion fruit, you get the idea. In Japan, KitKat, or Kitokato, coincidentally or not, sounds very similar to Kitokatsu, which means roughly in English, surely you will win. In other words, it represents good luck and so has a very positive association in Japan. In general though, the Japanese prefer milder flavors, so what's with all these intense varieties like maple syrup, lemon cheesecake, and cookie dough? Originally, these were targeted towards foreigners or visitors. In fact, there are some flavors that you can only get at certain international airports, typically on your way out of Japan. But now you will find what they call adult flavor, which I think tends to be less sweet, and another called sublime, which I guess is less intense. Either way, they're made to appeal more to the traditional Japanese palate from what I can gather. But now KitKat in Japan has become really its own thing, with stores that sell only KitKats called chocolaterie stores. Almost a boutique of nothing but KitKats and unicorns. These chocolateries have their own exclusive releases, seasonal releases, limited releases, fancy gift boxes, and more. And the lines can get really long in hopes of snagging something special before they sell out. And KitKat no longer just appeals to foreigners or visitors. You will see Japanese lining up at these dedicated KitKat stores along with non-Japanese alike. They even have a classically trained pastry chef named Yasumasa Takagi that spends most of his time experimenting with new inspirations in a dedicated test kitchen. That's how serious they take it. His first release was passion fruit way back in 2005, but there have been many since. And don't worry, at the end of this video, I will list all the flavors I could find from Japan. Okay, so now you see all the KitKat goodness the world has to offer, and if you live in the US, you are sad. I am sad. We are sad together. But do not worry, there are some ways I will mention in a minute that might help reduce your sadness. So the big question, why hasn't Hershey's in the US picked up some of the more exotic flavors found elsewhere in the world? Surely Americans love variety and choice, and some of these would sell like hotcakes. Hotcakes, that might be a good flavor. Anyway, it could be a couple of things. For one, Hershey seems to have an old school philosophy. They mostly produce what some would call classics. In other words, they have a formula that works, so why mess with it? Secondly, they probably couldn't secure rights to any of these insane flavors that Nestle owns simply because Nestle really wanted to produce KitKats in the US. And since Hershey wouldn't play ball, I'm guessing Nestle hasn't gotten over that. I would love to see Nestle buy the rights to KitKat in the US for an insane amount of money so Americans can join the rest of the world in their enjoyment of this magical treat in all its variations. But I'm not holding my breath. However, if you would like to try some international KitKat flavors, there is hope. If you have a local Japanese or even a world market, they often carry a few of the international flavors. My local Japanese market here in San Diego, California, carried a few of the Japanese imports like green tea and some others. And Amazon also sells a pretty decent variety, though it will cost you, but not nearly as much as a plane ticket to Japan. I have put links to some of the more interesting flavors in the description box below, so be sure to check them out. So before we go into listing the astronomical number of KitKat varieties in Japan, what are some of your favorite flavors? Or least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And also tell me what other video topics you might like to see on companies, history, food, or anything else really, and I'll consider it. This is 2-Bit History. Thanks for watching. Alright, so here's the list of all the KitKat flavors in Japan I could find. I might have duplicated a few, missed a few, or some may no longer be in production, but it's really hard to find a single source for every flavor and to figure out which ones mean what in English versus Japanese. But let me know of any corrections, and I'll keep the list up to date in the description, and who knows, maybe I'll even make a web page on our website, because I couldn't find one that had every flavor all in one place. I was originally going to read them all off, but I realized I would butcher a bunch of the names, so enjoy the scrolling list with some catchy music. Here we go.